It's that time of the calendar again, Hoyney, where we have a regular update on the best players in the game.
Yeah, so we do this every 4 weeks, as we have done for 3 years. And funnily enough, our top 10 players, there's only been one change compared to what it was 4 weeks ago. There's been some moves within that top 10, but there's only been one addition and one player come out from that top 10. So we'll start from number 10, and that is Andrew Brayshaw. So he's the 10th highest rated player.
Is he a slider?
In the comp. He was 8th 4 weeks ago.
Not too big a slide.
Mm-hmm. Took Miller maintains his spot at number 9. He was there at round 12 as well. Lockie Ash has come down a little bit, number 8 still. He was 3rd in the comp after round 12. Jack Sinclair, likewise, 7th best player in the comp, 2nd after round 12. Tristan Cherry maintains his status, 6th best player in the comp. He was number 5 after round 12. Riley Tilthorpe and him have swapped around. So Riley Tilthorpe is number 5 after being number 6 after round 12. Nasai Wanganeen Malera maintains his spot as the 4th best player in the comp, like he was after round 12. Bailey Dale comes up a little bit, 3rd best player in the comp. He was 7th after round 12. The addition is Luke Jackson, who comes in as the 2nd best player in the comp.
Had a huge...
He was just short of being around that mark after round 12 because he had missed a bit of footy, so he hadn't qualified with the minutes that had played. And no surprise to anyone who listens to this show, but Ed Richards is the number 1 player in the game like he was at round 12. Couple of things I just want to add in there. So the one individual that comes out is Libba. So Libba was number 10 4 weeks ago. He's now 34th. So his form over the last 5 or 6 weeks, a bit quiet on Friday night, but that's been a bit of a constant.
That pushed him out of the centre square a bit too.
At times, but just still struggling to have that impact. Who's coming with a bullet? So we do this, quite regularly. So the last 6 weeks, Josh Tracy inside the top 20 players in the competition after being outside the top 100 6 weeks ago. Cam Rayner, likewise, inside the top 20 over the last 6 weeks, just inside the top 200 at round 10. And Pat Lipinski inside the top 30 players in the comp the last 6 weeks.
First time ever?
Outside the top 150. Yeah, no, absolutely first over a 6 week period.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of individuals that are going on the slide that we just need to keep a bit of a watch on. So Bailey Humphrey, I thought he was better against Melbourne, but after round 10, inside the top 15 players in the comp, last 6 weeks, outside the top 250. Ollie Dempsey is interesting.
Humphrey's gone a bit quiet.
Humphrey has gone a bit quiet. Ollie Dempsey is interesting. Wonder if the competition are now going to work on what he does and the role that he's playing. So after round 10, inside the top 25 players in the comp, over the last 6 weeks, outside the top 200. So interesting to see how they get Ollie going post there by now. Zach Bailey, good against Geelong, but had been a bit quiet after that. Top 20 player after round 10, over 200 over the last 6 weeks.
Fair drop.
And Maxi Gawn, so the All-Australian conversation, I think, that now needs to sort of almost be a little bit put to bed at the moment with Max. So top 30 player in the comp after round 10, outside the top 200 over the last 6 weeks. And just one, I know Kane's not here, I know, but he'll enjoy this. So there's a minutes criteria in regards to getting a ranking. So you needed to have played, I think it's around about 1,000 minutes or 1,100 minutes or whatever it might have been at this stage of the season to get a ranking. If we push that out just a little bit to 800 minutes, right?
Yep.
The Dogs would have 4 of the top 5 players in the competition. So they would have Ed Richards, Sam Darcy, Bont, the great man, would slide into the top 5, and Bailey Dale as well. So in 4 weeks' time, there is a potential to have for one club to have 4 of the top 10, maybe 4 of the top 5.
Ever been done before, Hoyney?
No.
Okay, so for those people who are in the car or preparing the meal and have just sliced a finger off, I will ask the question I'm sure you're all asking. Where are the Brownlow medal favourites? Where's Bailey Smith? Where's Jordan Dawson? Where is who's second in the Brownlow medal? Nick Dacos is the name I was looking for.
All right.
Thank you, wearer of moulded boots.
Let's work our way through them. So Bailey Smith, top 30 player in the comp.
Yep.
Last 6 weeks, not as good as what he was early on in the season. Who's the next one?
Where is he at the moment?
Top 30, 29th in the comp.
Yep.
Nick Dacos, we know the Nick Dacos discussion. We've had that a little bit on this show throughout the season. Yeah, 123rd in the competition. His game against St Kilda, exceptional. His best game of the season. His game against West Coast on the weekend, not as damaging with ball in hand. On the raw stat sheet, looked good, but not as damaging.
How many times do you think he would have voted under your observations?
Thinking about it, 15 games, maybe five, I reckon. Okay. I reckon under the umpires might be a different story. Jordan Dawson is one of those that he's coming with a bullet, right. But he starts the season putting right back after round 6, round 7, 250th or thereabouts in the competition. Because of his ball use, his poor ball use. We've spoken about him on this show a little bit, but he is coming hard with a bullet.
Anything further to add on this?
No,
Who would you have as the All-Australian ruckman, given that everybody would be asking? I guess it's Tristan Xerri.
I'd have Tristan Xerri.
Xerri, I should say.
With a look to have Luke Jackson potentially on the bench as well. So that is going to be an interesting discussion in about 8 weeks' time for the All-Australian panel.
All right. You are who you are, Hoyney.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a discussion on this because there is not this magical switch that just happens at round 22, round 23, round 24, and all of a sudden you just flick into this different team and you flick into this different profile because September's around the corner and you're going to change the way you play and all of a sudden you're going to be poor at this and then you're going to be great at that. By round 20, round 21, we've had this discussion for a couple of years. You are who you are by that stage of the season.
The DNA is set.
So basically you've almost got 3 to 4 weeks now to iron out profile-wise before the launch pad comes into play.
Yep.
But the reality is, and we've spoken about a lot this year, that it's only round 3, it's only round 4, you want to be building, it's only May, it's only June. Now it's getting to a stage where, righto, I don't want to be building anymore. I'm ready to start launching because the reality is over the last 8 years, 7 or 8 years, take out 2020, but over the last 7 or 8 years, the Premier for the last 8 weeks of the season has won 80% of their matches. The Premier for the last 10 seasons in this period of the game, on the core 4 profile that myself and Kingy track religiously, have been top 6 in 9 of the 10 years, right, heading into September. So for that 8-week period, that last 8 weeks at home and away, they've been top 6 in terms of what they do offensively, defensively, contest-wise, and post-clearance, okay? So now is the time to get going. So you run through the top 9, right, and have that question for your supporter base. You are who you are, okay? So Collingwood, we've talked about their ball movement. Their D50 ball movement offensively and defensively. Offensively 13th, defensively 14th. Is that who they are this year, or is that going to change over the next 4 or 5 weeks, or are they just that team? Brisbane, defending ball movement, bottom 6 in the competition.
Can they win it if that stays the same?
You can win it. I think you can win it if you've got a lot of other assets to be able to throw back, which Brisbane and clearly Collingwood do.
What were they this time last year?
I just wonder whether or not that is going to be
Achilles?
Yeah, well, not the Achilles, or if that's going to be the area where opposition teams go to work. So Brisbane bottom 6 there, and then the accuracy component. Is that going to change, or is that just them in 2025? Adelaide, offensively, against the best teams in the competition, worst offensive profile in the comp. I think they've got 3, maybe 4 more opportunities against the top 9 teams to change that, or is that just who they are in 2025? Geelong, defending transition scores. So Collingwood, Adelaide, GWS, Brisbane opened them up by being able to go from one end of the ground to the other. Do they fix that, or is that just who they are in 2025? Hawthorn, repeat of the Crows. Offensively against the best teams, bottom 4, bottom 5 against the competition. Does that change? They've got a pretty hard draw on the way home. We'll find out. Or is that just who they are in 2025? Gold Coast, their ball movement game over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, only Richmond are worse in that aspect of the game. Does that change over the next 4 weeks? Or is that just who they are for the remainder of the 2025 season, where they have to rely on territory and scoring off the back of forward half work? The Dogs, we'll keep talking about this, and we saw it on Friday night. Defensive 50. They are absolutely brilliant offensively. Clearly the best offensive profile team in the competition. The D50 is the 6th worst in the comp. Against the best, it's the 4th worst in the comp. That profile hasn't won a flag for 15, 20 years. Does that change over the next 4 weeks? Or are they who they are? Freo, number 8 offensively, number 8 defensively. Are they just a mid-table team that will get there and will maybe, finish 7th or 8th? Or does one or the other elevate to a top 4, top 5 team and become a threat? And then GWS, just defensively, bottom 4, bottom 5 in the competition for being able to restrict the opposition scoring off the back of turnover and clearance. Does that change over the next 8 weeks? Or is that just who they are in 2025? Because if that's who they are in 2025, we know the end story of that.
Cam, I'll give Hoyney 10 seconds to have a breather. Based on what he has just enunciated,
Yes.
it says to me that this is a far more open premiership race than most people would have thought, given I think most people would say it's a race in 3, maybe 4, with the Dogs coming with a bullet. But you've got, I reckon 90% of people think it's going to be Brisbane and Collingwood, potentially the Dogs, potentially the Cats. But outside of that, no one. But Hoyney's just told us that everybody's got a problem and there's no absolute specials.
The latter, and of course past experience in the last 2 premiers, are the 2 teams that so many people are into. Geelong, those home games, and a relatively, in the eyes of some, a softish fixture on the way home. But there's pros and cons. We talked about the wild card last week and everyone looking to try and spice the year up. The actual spicing of the year is who finishes top 4 and gets that all-important double chance, who actually makes the 8, who misses out when there's an argument to suggest that all these 9 teams have an opportunity to win the flag, and one might be missing come September. So I think it's a very open season on that profile, and I'm my head's spinning a little bit here, Hoyne, because I'm not quite as smart when it comes to numbers as you are, but it does feel everything you've talked about and the way of who you are in the back end of the year just feels that that's exactly what Brisbane got right late, right? About this time last year, they started to hum, started to be a little more Brisbane Lions-like, and it momentum and steamrolled all the way to a flag.
Yeah, I mean, you look at recent examples. You look at Brisbane in the back 2 months of the year, back 8 weeks of the year in 24. Geelong, I say this to everyone, in 22 is the best profile I've seen in my 20 years at Champion. It was bulletproof.
When you say best profile, do you mean the most dominant relative to that year, or the best profile you've ever seen?
Oh, just the best profile I've ever that we've seen at Champion. Champion in Champion time in my 15 20 years doing it. Melbourne last 7 or 8 weeks of the year, they had those issues, those offensive issues in 21, but they got that going. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of talk about the divide between top 9, bottom 9. But you talk about final series, it shapes as a cracking final series.
Give me Carlton and Collingwood then. You are who are, especially Carlton, who a lot of people want to know who the bloody hell they are. Yeah,
so we'll start with Carlton, and speed of ball movement is new to the industry in 2025, and it is becoming, I keep saying this, is becoming an almighty cheat sheet. Clubs are going to work on it religiously, diving into it, and he's telling amazing insights. And the initial thought is, from everyone that, speed is good. Everyone wants to be fast. And whilst that is true a lot of the time, Carlton on Thursday was the absolute pin-up as to why sometimes speed is just no good. Their speed in terms of how they move the footy against Port Adelaide on the weekend was the 4th quickest by any team in 2025. And it was the quickest we have ever seen from Carlton in our time of doing speed of ball movement in 7 years. How they got rid of it was just at ridiculous levels that we've hardly seen in our 7 years of doing it. The speed at which they go at AFL average is 100. The speed at which they went at on Thursday night was 171. It was incredible. It was just get rid of it, and then it was short, and it was inboard. Short and inboard into corridor, and let's try and we could all see they didn't have the skills to do that. The execution wasn't there, and it played into Port Adelaide's hands. So a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned pre-buy. Carlton were a long, down-the-line tram tracks team.
Yep.
Interesting to see post-bye how that chains up. Number 18 for being able to score inside forward 50. That method can sometimes, contribute to that. Well, if you're a Carlton supporter, you have gone to work and you have tried. So just a bit of recognition to the coaching department that they have tried. They've tried to play a more aggressive, long change of angles team, change of angles method to try and open it up. But as we keep coming back to, and we can all see with our eyes, the skill execution to be able to implement that is just not there. So just a little bit of a two-parter in terms of the speed component and what Carlton have tried to do by changing it up. I just wonder whether or not now, off the back of what they did against North and Port Adelaide by really not working with poor skill execution, if they just go back to basics of being long down the line, straight line, aggressive to goal, that's the way that we're actually going to play, just to give us a chance because we don't have the skills there.
Well, before we get Guess Who, let's give us a few thoughts on the Pies.
Okay, so clearly the best team in the competition. Clearly everyone is chasing them. Collingwood supporters, your profile is, as I said, the best in the competition. But that is boring and that is obvious, right? The comp is going to work or has to be going to work on how do you beat this team.
Yep.
So that's what, just want to put that on the agenda tonight of what we're going to do. So again, this speed of ball movement is telling us a lot and is providing a lot of cheat sheets. So there's three components to it. Time, in terms of how long you actually take to get rid of it, how much distance you actually take with every disposal, and how aggressive you are when you go towards goal. The reality is Collingwood have only been challenged 6 times this year. In all 6 of those games, each of their opposition teams have challenged them and been long and aggressive with what they have done with ball in hand. When they have not been long and aggressive and have got spooked a little bit by their defensive system, which has happened 10 times for the year, not been challenged once. 6 times long with what they've done, the opposition. I'll keep saying that, with what they've done.
But it's got to be long and quick, not long and slow.
A little bit, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. We saw Geelong in the fourth quarter, hold, then go, and then go long to great success. But 6 times, 2 losses to GWS and Geelong, a 1-point win against Melbourne, who did that against them, a 6-point win against the Bulldogs with a lot out, the Dogs. West Coast challenged them on the weekend, and Adelaide only lost by a goal or 10 points to them. And then when those teams have actually gone long, so that's fine, but when they've gone long and aggressive to goal, it has challenged Collingwood more than when teams are actually being the conservative model, trying to go slow, trying to pick their way through this amazing defensive system that Collingwood have got in play. So if you're someone that's coming up against Collingwood in September, coming up against Collingwood over the next 8 weeks, I'd be going to work first and foremost on that. Because when teams, those 6 teams that were aggressive and long with ball in hand, they scored from 47% of their inside 50s. The 10 teams that didn't have scored from 35% of their inside 50s. They were no threat to Collingwood. So
there's 2 differences here in my head, Hoyney, just trying to prosecute what you're saying or process it. Long and fast suggests to me you're giving it to Collingwood the way they want it because they'll have an outnumber there. Long and slowish to even numbers, you can get them on the ground.
No, both ways.
Both ways?
Both ways.
Okay.
So there's been, of those 6, some of them have done it through just holding, and then going. And some of them have done it through just flat-out speed.
Right.
Get it, and then get rid of it. But the story, those that have tried to work their way through and go shorter, AFL average thereabouts, not really challenged towards goal and what have you, have not been a threat to Collingwood whatsoever. 6 times. 6 times. I'll keep saying it.
Yep.
6 times teams have challenged them, long and direct to goal. It has worked in 2 of them and almost got over the line in it. And those that haven't done that, been put to sleep by this amazing defensive system that we can all see. 8 weeks to go. Interesting to track this for us and for everyone else as to whether or not other teams get on board.
Righto, Cam. Let's give us the...
Guess who time? Guess
Last
who?
6 weeks, this guy is the 9th best player in the competition. 9th best player in the competition. He plays for a bottom 9 team. He's a Victorian club. It's a Victorian club. Bottom 9 team.
You've spent a good 5 minutes, Jerry. Do you think you're any closer to the Guess Who?
No, I'm going to take some advice from thousands of people who have texted through. But I do know one thing. Last week, both Sammy and I got it right.
Oh, okay.
And this is how nasty he can be, the numbers man. If you ever knock him off with who am I, he goes absolutely nuts the next time. Give us that team, just a little.
You're struggling here, aren't you?
Oh, totally.
This is
totally.
so
Give
good.
us the
It's
team.
actually frustrated him too,
He
Hoyney.
was so arrogant at the start of the year. It was frightening how arrogant he was, Cam. But no, the team is St Kilda.
Okay, well,
Kilda.
that unfortunately gets rid of Sam Banks, who had a lot of people supporting him. St Kilda.
Good player, Sam Banks, actually.
You happy with Sam?
No, going well. Let me give you his position. No, I'm actually not going to give you the position. I've won. I knew I was going to win this comfortably.
Well, you've done
Sammy
it
in the
easily.
back, Eddie at the back.
Wilkie.
No, he was fantastic on the weekend. I reckon St Kilda supporters will appreciate this bloke.
Is he Rising Star nominee this year?
No, he's not.
Not Wes Hall.
No, he's not. There he is, Max Hall.
There you go.
Max Hall. So, watching Max Hall play on the weekend and now watching him over the last couple of weeks, he's a player ratings player. Because when he gets it, there is impact and there's damage for what he does. He wins it in good positions. And more importantly, he's so creative once he actually wins the footy. So, as I said, over the last 6 weeks, top 10 player in the competition. For his position, so the two main components of the game, how you win it and then how you use it. For his position, how he uses it, 2025 footy is how you use it over how you win it. The second best small forward in the comp for what he does with ball in hand. And then how he wins it, the fifth best small forward in the competition.
Going
In
well.
3 of his last 4 games, he's gone 8, 7 and 11. Score involvements on the weekend, 11. 21 disposals in that position for 11 score involvements. He was significant for them almost pulling off a huge upset. And to be taken in the 2024 mid-season draft, like, I know there's a lot of talk around St Kilda's kids and what have you. What Simon Dalrymple has done at the draft table over a number of years, think back to his time at the Dogs and what he did to build that 2016 list, what he's done at times with the Swans. His record is really good. And, to be able to pluck him as a mid-season pick at a 23, 24-year-old, whatever it might be, where you can look at him now and go, we've got one of those crafty small forwards for the next hopefully 8, 9, 10 years. And then the bigger picture for St Kilda supporters. So 2 weeks ago against the Dogs, you were the 5th oldest team for the week. 2 weeks later against Fremantle, you're the 2nd youngest team for the week. You've just dropped by pretty much 18 months on average per player from, in a fortnight's worth of footy. And I think, just watching it on Sunday, a lot of those, I think it was 9 or 10 under 23-year-olds, and you go through the under 23-years, and you're like, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see a little bit of excitement there. Obviously, Taru on the weekend was unbelievable and has been spoken about. But go through the other 10 of them. There's probably 6, 7, 8 of those under 23-year-olds that played on the weekend. And, there's some bit of hope there for St Kilda supporters. Still a way to go. Not absolutely jumping to conclusions whatsoever, but a different-looking profile, a different-looking team, and one that should hopefully be bringing a bit of excitement to St Kilda.
That's a very much more positive picture than the one that's been painted to me by a few St Kilda fans over the last few months. Nick Gold in particular, who's been very down in the mouth, but that's a really impressive summation.
Yeah, and I think, as I said, the Simon Dalrymple acquisition to the footy club, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might be 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be, but it's only been recent.
Yep.
You have a look at the additions that he's added in from his draft selections.
Okay.
There's a bit of hope there.
Saints are on the way.
Give him a couple more draft picks.
Yep.
Who knows what might happen with the Saints in a couple of years' time.
Okay, let's move on. Defend with the footy.
Yes, so as I keep going on about this speed of ball movement, great cheat sheet. All right, so last week we talked about North, right, and against Hawthorn coming up. Right?
You weren't sold on the North story.
No, and that's why we call it
Fake footy?
Defend with the footy. You probably can go with that. I'm going to go a little bit not. Defend with the footy.
Only using your terminology.
Right. Yeah. so as I said, speed of ball's been around 7 years. Right?
Yeah.
So defend with the footy was in vogue 5 years ago. 2021 was the slowest season we've seen from a speed of ball movement in our 7 years of doing this. It was hold, then go a little bit shorter than average, but in a lateral sense.
Yep.
Defend with the footy, set up behind, and I think we can all probably appreciate 2021 footy was pretty hard to watch. Right?
Sharon had not been set free.
No. 8 teams were playing that hold, lateral, defend with the footy mode in 2021. Who wasn't? Melbourne. Melbourne weren't playing that in 2021. They won a flag by, 80 points, whatever it was. They were the outlier along with Richmond off the back of what Richmond had done 3 of the previous 4 seasons. Long, direct, challenge the opposition, wins you a flag. 2022 footy then changes to become more direct, trying to take the opposition on. Geelong with the pin-ups of that. They were in the defend with the footy mode in 2021, one of the 8 teams. They changed their profile to take on the opposition more, win a flag by 80-odd points. As I said a couple of weeks ago, the comp as a whole has never been more aggressive with what they're doing ball in hand in 2025. So as I said, speed of ball's been here for 8 years, never been more aggressive what they're doing in 2025. 5 years ago, 8 teams that hold, lateral, defend with the footy mode. 2 teams do it in 2025 at the moment. Essendon, who we talked about that 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. I know they've had injuries, but that has been there. And we put it on the agenda with North as well. They're the second that do it. So if North don't win clearance, which we talked about last week, Tristan Cherry, unbelievable. North's clearance profile, unbelievable. If they don't win clearance, then they don't get the chance to defend with the footy. What happens on Saturday? -14 at clearance. Hawthorn go to work on it. They know that this defensive profile that looks okay from a points against perspective. No. Dig deep. They are the 3rd worst team North over that 8-week period at defending clearance, right? Because you lose. You're defending clearance. You don't get a chance to set up behind the footy and protect your back 6, back 7. They're going to defend for their lives. They're going to defend one out at times, and it's challenging. 3rd worst. But when they defend a turnover, mid-table, so an improvement on that. But a lot of that is to do off the back of their offensive method. Defend with the footy, which is why for an 8-week period, 9-week period, clearly the worst offensive profile in the comp. They're not challenging the opposition with ball in hand. They're trying to help and protect their back 6, back 7 because the first 6 weeks of the year, 7 weeks of the year, defensively, horrible. Like giving up, as we saw against Carlton, Good Friday. We saw at other times, in that 5-6 week period, giving up 120, 130 scores. They haven't been doing that, so everyone's getting excited. Geez, it looks good on paper. What's sustainable and what's not? Defend with the footy 5 years ago. Defend with the footy not 2025 footy. So just interested to see if they have that mindset of defend with the footy Thursday night against the best offensive team in the competition, it could be dangerous. I hope I'm wrong.
Spoil the celebration.
I hope I'm wrong. So just as a North supporter, Thursday and moving forward for the next 8 weeks, it's not about 2025. It's about big picture. Look to see whether or not there's a change in ball movement strategy with a bit more of an aggressive approach with ball in hand, because that's what's going to get you success longer term in hopefully 2 years, 3 years time, or is it a protect the back 6, back 7 mode?
Zak Butters.
Yeah, watching Thursday night, and it just cast in my mind back over the recent period, and I know you've been talking a lot about it, G, and it's fair enough given the role that you'll play, but the taggers and what taggers do and the I wonder whether or not this guy is the best player in the competition at handling a tag. Because watching him on Thursday night when Cincotta went to him, he did it with a leg in the air. and we've seen Cincotta have great success in that role over the last 12 months, 18-month period. So Nick Dacos gets the most attention in the competition. I reckon this guy's getting the second most attention in the competition, but it's going under the radar because he's handling it so well and not playing for as big a team as what Collingwood are. So O'Shane Mullen and Jack Viney get him, right? So 6 times he's been tagged. 2 of them have got him. That's hats off to those 2. But Wagner at Fremantle went to him. He's the second best player or second highest rated player on the ground. Bedford went to him, second highest rated player on the ground. James Jordan goes to him in the second half, 6th highest rated player in the second half against Sydney. And then Chincotta on the weekend, second highest rated player on the ground. So I know that there's a lot of talk around the impact of what taggers do, and it's there. James Jordan again on Ed Richards.
Yep.
Fantastic Friday night. And majority of the time it works, as you would know better than me, clearly, G. But just a bit of recognition to this guy for being able to probably handle it and manage it more than most other midfielders across the competition this season.
Okey-doke, we've got to wrap this one up pretty quickly before we take our next break. The nothing men.
So Melbourne have got 8 games to go.
Yes.
In their season. Clearly not playing finals. What does it look like moving forward in 2026 and beyond? I just wonder, what do they do with Christian Salem behind that? Because to me, at the moment, across this season, he's a 257th rated player in the comp. The last 6 weeks, he's outside the top 300 players in the competition. What he does with ball in hand, we know the halfback flankers are there to be damaging and creative. And he takes the 11th easiest kicks of any player in the competition. There's no damage with ball in hand, and there hasn't been damage with ball in hand for Christian for a number of years. Trent Rivers, people keep telling me, and I was one of them, to be fair, that this guy's, he's the one to go into the midfield. He's the one to be that halfback flanker. Since he's come into the comp, in his first year, he was a top 100 player, tick. Likewise in 23, likewise in 24, and again in 25. He's just on AFL 100. He's a good player. Is he going to reach the heights of what a lot of us, myself included, to elevate himself to be a top 30, top 50 player? Or is he just going to be a good player that does a role but doesn't elevate himself into the elite bracket? Because his ball use this year is the 5th worst kick in the competition. People keep telling me that's his strength. He's the 5th worst ball user in the comp. And then the other one for the last 8 weeks of the year, clearly they would have reasons. But Caleb Windsor to me, and I think I've mentioned this on this show as well, Caleb Windsor to me reminds me and has attributes and traits of Max Holmes.
Yep.
Brought in at pick 6. We saw it last year. He performed 20% above expectation as a 19-year-old winger. This year moved down back to try and get that explosion and try and get that ball movement game going. He's going slightly below average. Do they look to throw him in to a centre bounce over the next 7 or 8 weeks and just see what they've got to work with in 2026 and beyond? Because he hasn't attended one centre bounce in his career. So do they look and see what Max is doing? I'm not saying he's going to be Max immediately, but could he be a Holmes type in 2 or 3 years' time?
I think if he's going to try that, he's going to have to have the best pre-season of his life. He's only had a couple.
Yep.
No centre bounce isn't a remarkable stat. Like, you think at least at one time, considering the way he's...
And look, and he might not have the tank, G, as you said. He might need, but just throw him in there for a quarter.
Yeah.
They need to change something because the 3 premiership stars are not doing the job.
Who did they miss? So when you're running short of time, so who did they miss?
Well, lucky we are because the coaches had a fantastic week because there was hard. I started going through the coaches' votes. Oh, this is absolutely unbelievable.
Well, they're putting more work into it now, Hoyne, because you're nailing them on a Tuesday.
This is, so unfortunately there was only 3 players that they missed from the weekend, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. So Errol Goulden, Jesus, good player. I know his statement is bleeding obvious, but 3rd highest rated player on the ground, didn't get a vote. To spend 83% of game time on the wing and to win 15 contested possessions is, and he's done this for the last 12 months, 18 months, is stuff that's unheard of as a winger, and then gets back and has his 7 intercepts. So a rounded game that we've seen from Errol for the last 18 months, 2 years. So he was fantastic.
Moving on.
Saturday, Twilight, Hawthorn, North Melbourne, Nick Watson.
Oh, he was terrific.
4th highest rated player on the ground, didn't get a vote. 13 disposals, all impact. 8 score involvements. 3 goals there.
Hard to see how they missed him.
For Nick Watson. A couple of weeks ago, it might have been last week or a couple of weeks ago, we put Ed Richards up as the Champion Data Immortal.
Yeah.
We might rename this segment, Who Do They Miss, to the Jack Crisp Award.
The Crispy.
He's almost just locked in. I said this is the boys' back office, and I think we all agreed.
Okay.
He's in there again.
Yeah.
So
He's got to get an All-Australian this year.
second highest rated player on the ground, didn't get a vote.
Crispy.
And did it in a different way to what he usually does. His ball winning ability on the weekend, G and Cam, was through the roof as opposed to his ball use. So well done there to Jack Crisp.
Well played, Crispy.
Having
MDP.
a fantastic season. MDP, I have actually forgot to do the MVP this
moving
week.
on.
Sammy,
Saves
I've
us time.
actually missed that
Give us
one,
your gem and your horror.
Apologies there. So the gem. So I think we all appreciate that Dan Curtin had a fantastic performance on the weekend. This is how fantastic it was. He's the first player in the history of the game. Remember, the game didn't exist pre-99. First player in the history of the game to have 25-plus disposals, 4-plus intercept marks, 4-plus score assist, and 2-plus goals.
Great performance.
No one has ever done that in the history of the game, 99 onwards. So well done there to Dan Curtin to really emphasise the importance or the game that he played on the weekend. And then the horror, fortunately for the Tigers, you mentioned post-clearance at the top of the show, how important it was. They were minus 35 in post-clearance contest. That is Richmond's second worst differential ever in a game of
for the
footy.
Tigers.
So,
Got to find some batteries.
unfortunately for the Tigers, it might be a hard last 8 weeks of the year.
You've mentioned Dan Curtin.
Yep.
There was a big discussion over the West as to whether they take Dan Curtin, local product, or Harley Reid. How's Harley Reid tracking from a champion data perspective?
Not as well as nowhere near as well, actually, as what Dan Curtin is. So Dan Curtin, at the moment, is well and truly inside the top 100 players in the comp. Harley's outside the top 250. Interesting with Harley, we can all see the good that he does, and it's powerful and it's dynamic, and he's only 2021, so we've got to give him plenty of time, obviously. The ball use component of Harley is going to be interesting to track. We keep talking about 2025 footy being how you use it over how you win it. The ball use side of things continues to hurt him. So,
Which isn't the modern day game, is it?
no, as I said, 2025 footy is ball use over ball winning. So it's just an interesting one to track. Got
to get the fumbles out of his game.
Yeah, that fumble on the wing.
Do you
last
get
quarter,
badly penalised for a fumble by the data?
that sort of fumble you do.
Okay.
That's the real obvious ones where you've had, open space to collect the footy. You do get penalised. But the incongestion one you don't.
How did you rate Brodie Grundy's game on the weekend?
Superb. Glad we talked about him last week. His 7 week period has been phenomenal. Top 5, top 10 player in the comp for his clearance and contest work, and potentially a reason as to why Sydney could be a threat to disturb some of the top 9 teams on the way home.
Hoyney's making my blood boil.
Yes.
And it's so bad I've almost stopped barracking for them. Hoyney, you've upset some people because they're already upset.
Standard Tuesday night behaviour, isn't it?
Hoyney, thank you.
Cam, great to have you.
Been great.
G, have a good week.
See you, Hoyney.